You said one.
Yeah, what?
Was it one or one?
Hola, Colin.
How are you, Gary?
Good afternoon, young man.
I see you've taken this outdoor studio a little one step too far.
Yeah.
And the lighting department are out with Jesus.
Yes. With who?
Jesus. He's our Italian lighting operator. I'm our Spanish lighting operator.
Okay,
He's got the biggest spotlight in the world.
At this Sunday, so I'll let you get away with that one.
Ho, ho, ho. Greetings and salutations. It's episode number 49.
Hi,
So-
everybody. How are you?
I'm going to call this San Francisco. And if you can work that out, then there is a prize. Nobody got yesterday's prize for 48. And I called it 7 time. That was for Jim, who is along with, it was very impressive when he drove Fernando Alonso's McLaren. Of course, it was a McLaren, so it wasn't very fast at all, but he was not that far off young Fernando.
That is correct. And practicing yesterday over there with these guys. But you know, are we going dead silent now?
No, but we're not at Daytona yet. Gary,
Oh, okay.
check me. Check my ass. My ass?
My ass. Hello, my ass.
No, but check in my ass. Focus, but. Okay, so Gary's focused.
You
We
see-
tuned him up.
He's jumping down my throat again.
No, I'm not. So we'll get to Daytona now. So Jimmy Johnson was as quick as Fernando Alonso in the super slow McLaren, which is. Was that your pacemaker that was overheating?
Yeah, remember yesterday we talked about some software updates and all that sort of stuff.
Well,
Guys, we
you
do
got version
apologize.
0.
Okay, no, we do apologize.
think you got
It's so hot here that the phone actually shut its. I mean, the system shut itself down because of the high temperature. Okay.
Because the cameraman is a bit of a tool, and he didn't put the umbrella over this fancy new camera that we've got from America. Or was it from China? I think it comes from China. It's certainly made in China. But anyway, welcome back. Where were we, Gary? We were talking about Daytona and the Raw before the 24. What is the Raw before the 24? Essentially, it's 3 days of testing. And some races for GT3 cars and and GTD as they call GT Daytona as they call it in America. So that was all pretty good. Our boy Kelvin van der Linde he battled a little bit with setup. You were saying,
Well,
Gary?
I wouldn't say he battled. The team battled with setup, and they got bogged down with a lot of our favorite terminology called BOP.
Okay, so balance of performance.
yeah, balance
What
of
I
performance.
think is happening,
Yes.
they've now got the Evo version of the Audi.
Yeah.
And what I think, Gary, and I might be wrong, but have I ever been wrong? Once, I think. Thought I was wrong, but actually I was right. So, anyway, with the balance of performance, if you go too fast, you get an automatic penalty. So they'll either take away boost or they'll give you a little bit of a takeaway, give you more of a restrictor, give you more weight, fiddle with the fuel. There's many different ways of adjusting the performance of a race car over 24 hours. So nobody wants to, there's a whole lot of sandbagging going on. The masters of sandbagging, of course, are Ford, who won Le Mans on their 50th anniversary by managing the balance of performance incredibly well. I don't know, did you check how Steven Simpson is going in the Cadillac? I didn't see it. It's a yellow Cadillac.
Unfortunately, I didn't. But at the end of the day, Calvin managed to get into qualifying, okay, and they ended up in P16 in qualifying. However, when they got to the later practice, which is another practice session afterwards, the team managed to bring the car up into 10th position. And talking about that, and we're talking about Steven Simpson and all these crazy guys, and you know, there's a gentleman over there called Alex Zanardi. I don't know if you all know about Alex Zanardi, but Colin's got a lot of history.
All motor fans love Alex Zanardi.
So I'm going to ask production, please put up that video of Alex Zanardi. And I've got a couple of questions to ask you because I think it's actually quite impressive what these guys are capable of doing.
Just a quick recap. He has a crash in Germany. He comes out of the pits and on cold tires hoofs it and gets drilled by another car. His
Yeah.
legs get cut off.
Okay.
And so he's jumping into the car. You can see now. His legs get chopped off. He then decides, well, it's not the end of the life. And this guy's attitude to life is absolutely phenomenal. A lot of people would have turned around and believed their life was over. Here's a guy who was raced Formula One, was at the top of his game in IndyCars, absolute top of his game, and has this horrific accident. Luckily, he gets Dr. Jerry Trammell saved him from dying. There was
Yeah.
blood. I mean, he lost a lot of blood. Long story short, he gets back on his. I was going to say gets back on his feet, but literally he did.
On his horse.
And he then and he became an Olympian. He won the marathon in the Olympics on wheelchair.
Now, I wanted to ask you something, and we appreciate that. Now we're watching how they do this driver change. What I really want to know, I think it's absolutely fantastic that they can get him back into a car, racing GTLM. Is there a difference between him and his partner, or his co-driver, or his second driver? Because the second driver is a full able-bodied man, and I know they've modified this car to suit him. What actually happens in that case, Colin?
You'll see how he's jumping in and out of the car, and the biggest thing we saw that with. I'll get to your question now, Gary. I think it's a great question. We saw with Billy Munger, who was another guy who had his legs
Yes.
amputated, getting in and out of the cars. Legs in able-bodied humans are bad from an extrication and getting out of a car quickly. Guys who haven't got legs have got so much upper body strength they can basically pull themselves out of the car, and you see how he dives out the car, lands
Yeah.
on his. It's phenomenal, and then just. I'm blown away. I'm never going to complain that I've got a sore knee or a bump and a pain.
and we do complain to
And we
one
do
another
complain.
now and then.
Okay, so he's got a couple of things that they do, and they've got two different steering wheels. The car
Oh,
is
okay.
it's set up for able-bodied people
Yeah,
with a couple of additions,
right.
and one of them is on his steering wheel. So a normal able-bodied person has
Yeah.
got the 2 pedals or 3 pedals with
Yeah.
a clutch, and
Okay.
you've got flappy paddle, and off you go, and the gear shifters on paddles. What Zanardi has got is he's got a different steering wheel. He's got all of that, but you add throttle on the steering wheel. So he's got a ring around the.
Oh,
the
okay.
thing. So his throttle-
That's
he's
why
got
you
a
said
hand
it's
throttle.
totally different steering wheels altogether.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's got a hand throttle, and it's all electronic, so you can do that. And he's got the flappy paddle, and then he's got an additional brake lever. So
Is
where
that it looks
like a long handbrake.
it looks like what we did at that rally.
It
What the
is a
WRS
handbrake.
got this big lever in the
It's
middle of the car.
It's a big handbrake. So he arrives at a corner, and
Okay.
instead of using his feet to push the brake, he uses his hand, and he can also change gear.
Oh, really?
On the
So
gear
he's got
lever.
an up and down shift on
So-
that lever.
Yeah,
so one
he
hand
c-
moves from
so
here.
he can arrive at the corner,
Yeah.
apply the brakes. He's
Yeah.
got throttle here, but
Yeah.
you don't need that yet. And he can, so he's braking hard, bang, bang, bang down on the gears,
Mm-hmm.
starts turning in, comes off the brake and onto the throttle, and so he goes. I think it is magnificent. Now the one-handed driving part you might ask about, and it goes back to probably the last years of Formula One. If you watch a lap of where Ayrton Senna qualified the Lotus, he's driving 90% of the lap around Monaco in a Formula One car that's angry as,
Yeah.
I nearly said the bad word again, but Gary, as you keep reminding me, it's a family show.
Yes.
So-
Focus, Colin.
I'm trying. So he drives this lap about 90% Senna with one hand. So it's doable.
Yeah.
And here you've got a guy who's run a marathon on his arms. He's built the oak strong. He's proper strong. So for Zanardi, his core strength is immense, and his upper body strength is ginormous. So he's able to manhandle the car and to drive it round, and he's setting competitive times, and it is magnificent. An inspiration of note. So next time you think you're having a cuck day, just think of Alex Zanardi and how he's changed his life. What an inspiration.
Colin, just before, the
Oh,
normal.
is there anybody watching?
Oh, there's people watching.
Oak and Mauritius.
No. We've got Robert Chantwell's online. Good show yesterday, guys. Much he loved that.
Cool. And today,
And-
on a scale of 1 to magnificence, are we
Yeah,
exceeding that again?
Robert, won't you send us between 1 and 100,000%? Tell us what we're doing. Egan's online. Greg Jarman online. Afternoon, guys. Nassif is online. Hi,
So
guys.
Greg is-
Looking forward to today's episode. That's Menno.
Havelaar.
Yeah, Lee Phillips is out there and he's hanging.
Like a bat, bro.
Yeah.
So now, Lee, the book. Gary, I went down the hole of the book last night.
You went down the hole of the book.
You know a rabbit
Please
hole.
explain. Ah, okay, so you went and found the book.
I've got the book.
And
And I
you
was
started-
reading the book.
Yeah.
I was. And then somehow last night I started reading again. And then, do you know that there's one bird that starts all
Have
the
you
trouble?
guys realized he can read?
There's one bird that starts chirping, like this one chirping here, early in the morning.
Yeah.
And it was phenomenal. The book is Adrian Newey, How to Build a Car. Or
Okay.
was that more toys that you were throwing?
No, I'm just moving something because I'm seeing things. And yeah, but anyway, so it carries on and sorry, didn't mean to
I also want to
distract
give a
you.
big shout out to George Fisher. George, just talking about sports cars and Daytona and all the rest of it, just reminded me of George and some of the really good stuff that he's done, and the service that he's done to motorsport. So we saw yesterday. Our production guys are hooked up and ready to rock and roll with.
Yeah, they're ready as soon
with
as we
Glenn.
as soon as we tell them what to do.
So yesterday we listened to the first part of our Glenn Hall, head honcho of Hall Speed and Toyota Gazoo South Africa Racing. We've got part 2 of it, in which he goes a little bit further into the preparations for Dakar. And I promise you that today the bolt of lightning isn't coming, which came yesterday at the end of the show. So if our esteemed technical colleagues can rock and roll
No.
with the thing.
Production, please put on the Glen Hall video.
Navigation to me, from just looking at the compactness of the route, where yes, it's 10,000 kilometers of overall driving, but it's not the long haul. It's crisscrossing across the desert. So finding virgin sand and following tracks, it's going to be a difficult navigational race.
Yeah, it is. And last year it was as well. And the road book was quite good last year. So, and we have lots of resources within the team to do the plotting of the route the night before. And there's a lot of outside work for the co-drivers that happen where they think there's going to be very tight waypoints. In other words, the radius when the GPS comes on, it's 150 meters. I mean, that's nothing.
So just for those of us who don't really know, you've got a point that you need to go to within, say, 200 meters, and you haven't got an active GPS, but when you get close to it, it'll just help you get the last bit.
Okay, so let's say it this way. So they come to a waypoint, which is a GPS point in the middle of the dunes. Then the road book will give them a new compass bedding, a cap heading. Then they go, not for 200, they go maybe 3 Ks on that compass heading, and they've got to find a radius of 200 meters or 150 meters.
That's not big. It's like a rugby field.
That is very small. Yeah, very small when you've gone 3 Ks through dunes, which in a normal 4x4 you would be crawling through. It might take you 15 or 20 minutes, and these guys are going in 5 minutes, flying over the dunes, trying to keep the car straight. The co-drivers are, calculating they can't go over that dune, so they have to change the heading. Then they'll give the driver a new heading when they get to a distance. They've got the distance fairly pinned because the GPS gives you a distance that you've travelled if you've recorded it. You compared that to the wheel spin distance because you might lose that signal. So there's a lot going on for the co-drivers in this time.
And I'm glad you call him a co-driver and not just a navigator. I mean, there's a lot of work, the admin of the machine, that they have to look after to take that mental load out of the driver's mind.
I think, last year in stage 2, Matthew is Bowmel, NASA's co-driver, is exceptional, and he ended up getting ill. And I think that 50% of it, or 80%, was the stress on stage 2 last year, opening the road, no bikes in front, leading the way, and he ended up getting ill. And you can imagine now being nauseous beyond your imagination and still trying to navigate through that. Terrible.
Glad you brought up the opening of the road and the initial part of the race. The strategy this year, it's changed. You've got a longer first section. What is your strategy between the three drivers, and who opens, who doesn't open, who has a go, who doesn't have a go?
Yeah, so, yeah, a good point. And last year, the first stage was 40 Ks long. The second stage was a stage where no bikes were opening, as we've discussed. So it's virgin terrain. It's 280 Ks long, which is massive in the dunes. That means it's going to be a 4 to 5 hour stage. The difference in times can be many minutes. So last year, all the three Peugeot drivers chose to give away 2, 3, 4 minutes. And our guys, Nasser in particular, caught Stefan so quickly, he thought, well, let's just go for it and let's keep the time. Janil caught Carlos, couldn't believe how slow he was going. So Peugeot made a strategic move last year to lose 3-4 minutes in the first stage and then follow the next day. And overall, was it right or wrong? I'm not sure. But now this year, the first stage is 80 Ks long. So that's going to be 1 hour and 20. If you go flat out and you have a good run there, you could gain 4 or 5 minutes quite easily. So do you want to give away 4 or 5 minutes for the next day, or do you want to start behind the cars and now go harder, having some tracks in the sand? All three guys, the drivers, eventually that decision will be up to them because they know how they're going to play the race.
But you guide that. You play the overall chess match. You've got a sprinter, a banker, and somebody else.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it every day. And when we get there, we find out more about the stage. We find out where it is. Even the day before, when we have the route, if it's something similar to where we had last year, it might give the decision that, okay, we'll go for it. But of course, by then it'll be too late. We'll only have the road book after the first stage. So, yeah, it's going to be a tricky one.
And also, driver wakes up in the morning and for some or other reason he just feels invincible and, hey, Glenn, I'm going.
Well, let's see what happens. But all three...
They're all quick, eh?
They're all quick and they all want to win the Dakar. Is it going to be won on the first stage? Definitely not.
But it can be lost.
It can easily be lost. I mean, if at the end, if it's 4 or 5 minutes, it'll be a lot to give away. And you could be saying, "Woof, I wish we'd stuck our necks out."
Because the other thing, there's only 10 stages. Last year, this year still, as we speak, you won't see this year. You'll see it this year, but this year will be last year, and you know what I mean. But hey, get with the program. It's still 20, whatever it is. There were 15 stages last year. There's 10 this year, so you've lost time to
14 stages. I think. But remember,
you've lost time to make and gain.
Yes, you have. But I think the time frame of the stage will be long. Last year was 52 hours of racing or something. The year before was 32. We're estimating this year will be 40, 45. So, you're never sure. As I say, 200 Ks in Peru can take you 4 or 5 hours easily.
Right. So, Glenn, there's a lot I can sit and chat for as long as you'll before you kick us out.
Yeah,
but
at the end of the day, Colin, if you're going to win this race, you've got to go flat out at some point. And last year, on analysing the results, when you've got lots of top drivers, you don't necessarily have to win every day. You've actually got to be brave enough to decide some of the days you perhaps don't want to open and come back to 95% or 90%. And if you've got only 2 quick drivers, you have to win a lot of stages to win the race. This year we've got 6, 7 drivers all capable of winning the race easily, maybe 8. So perhaps you don't need to win every stage in order to win this race. In fact, you might not have to win one stage to win the Dakar, or only one, which Stefan Peter Hansel's had in his history, winning one stage and won a Dakar. So it'll be interesting.
It's lining up, I think, to be one of the most interesting races. Complete change in the South America race, almost taking it back to a North African race. You've got the only one works Peugeot left in the, oh, sorry, I mean officially a privateer, but a works Peugeot left.
Sebastian Loeb in any car is a force to be reckoned with. I mean, winning Rally Spain, WRC, been out of it, just dabbling in it all year. Never driven the car on the wet roads in Spain and saying, yeah, he had to take it easy just to get used to it. And then fighting for the win on the last stage, I think was pretty impressive. So don't underestimate Sebastian Loeb, ever.
Not Sebi, but the car for sure is not a privateer. That's the point I was trying to make.
Well, I think it is a privateer car this year. It'll be run by PH Sport, but all the DNA of the car is there. Loeb has been testing himself with the team, and we've seen this in the past, that when a good driver and a good team get a car that's even a year or two old, they can even improve it over the factory team through, some detailed determination. So I think that car could still be quick, yeah.
I really expect it to be a three-way fight between your Toyota Hiluxes and the mini buggies. The one is Przgonski in the four-wheel drive.
No, I think Nani will be very quick. They've all the cars are going to have the latest generation diesel turbo engine. The mini
with the big restrictor.
Yeah, with the big restrictor, which is a real big disappointment. And it was a bit of a loophole in the rules, and we didn't fight it hard enough at the right time. So they've gone to a new single turbo with electronic wastegate control, and Carlos told Janil in Morocco the engine was very good, very good in response. So they're 2 millimeters bigger and restrictor than us. We're at sea level, which will help us a little bit. We've got the new tyre, which will help us a little bit, but what it does mean is we're 5% less power than last year, no question about it. 1 millimeter in restriction.
That's max power, but you must have flattened off the graph and got more area underneath it.
We got a little bit more, but in the end of the day, that controls the air going to the engine, and that air means power, and that's what it's all about. So it means that we're going to have to drive harder each day than perhaps I would have wanted. If we'd had a 38 mil, we could have been a bit more strategic, perhaps.
And this, you speak about driving hard. Driving hard increases risk of damage to the vehicle. Is this car as serviceable or as easy to service as the older car?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we've made the suspension stronger for the race. We added a bit more weight. We've managed to the suspension. We managed to lose it from other areas of the car. We've refined the cooling system, lost 4 kilos in doing that, using a lot of production Hilux technology made in Pietermaritzburg. Incredibly efficient radiators. We've maximized the engine's power curve for the restrictor we've got. So we can't get more power than we had last year. That's impossible with a smaller restrictor. But we've got a better range of power.
More usable?
Not really. We've tuned the engine to have to rev more because we need to get more average power out of the engine.
What does it rev to now?
The revs will be maximum less than last year because the restrictor's smaller, but it just means that...
Looking for a number, Gary.
Yeah, I know you are, yeah. But we have to... The engine production can rev to 7,500 RPM. With the restrictor, it makes max power at 5, so you can't change those physics of the engine. So what we've done is the drivers are going to have to rev more between 4,800 and 6,300, should we say, if you want something.
And you've got of course, you've got the gearing sorted for that, so you can keep the revs there.
Yeah, not really, because the top gear is determined by the restrictor size. First gear is determined by being able to traverse the low rough sections, so the gear ratios are pretty fixed when you work it down. Just means the drivers have got to be more in tune, changing gear more often. So we've had to give away a little bit of low speed torque and maximise the power band a bit better.
Another number question. Flat out on a nice smooth road, how fast is your Toyota Hilux Bucky?
If we didn't get to 180, I'd be disappointed. Downhill with the wind behind, the car will go nearly to 200 k's an hour. The average speed for this Dakar will be around about 100. So you can work it all out. You spend most of the time between 180 and 120, 140.
The reason we are so keen on numbers, Glenn, is that we are on a big drive to support mathematics and science. And kids, racing is about numbers and angles. So we ask that, what you say, we need some good answers from you watching. The average speed is 100. The max on a downhill with a wind and your ears tucked back is 200. Go and do the math. Give us an answer in the comments and queries. There will be a prize from Autobahn. Guys have been really good helping us. Autobahn, Terry, just work the prize out.
Yeah. So
Glenn,
it's all about acceleration. At bottom of the day, torque, power, all those things are great. But if the gearing's not right, it's the torque at the rear wheels, which is the determining factor, and the acceleration. So top speed we don't focus on so much. It's the acceleration.
That's how fast you get there.
Yeah, from 80 to 140 k's an hour. That's what it's all about.
Glenn, your biggest fear?
Sure. It's not succeeding, That's and that's got a whole array of stuff. If the car lets the team down, the design, we've been through a lot of detail. The engineering on the car, I think, is superb at an incredibly high level. The quality control of the parts, we've worked hard on that. We know what is suspect if the drivers report back that they've had a massive hit. The team will focus more on those areas. So my biggest fear is if the car lets the team down in one way or another, we've got to give the drivers and the crew the tools to do the job. And
I recall you saying that 3 years ago, and that's got to be the quest, the tools for the job.
Yeah, we must be able to drive that car flat out. Look, the Hilux has been fantastic in terms of reliability. We broke something in Morocco. Nasser broke a lower wishbone on the first stage, managed to get out. We had an emergency one in the car, which we'd just finished the design change before the race. And they asked me on the open section, because there was a liaison, and that gave them some time to contact us, how fast they can go. Jesus, we've never really tested it. And I said 90%. That sounded like a good figure. And then at the end of the stage, Matthew said, no, Nasser was going flat out, and he said, you reminded him, Nasser, 90%. And yes, I'm braking from, in the triple cautions down to second gear instead of fourth gear. That was his 90%. And he took the 7 minutes he'd lost back again, and, almost won the stage. It was within the minute. So we'll see.
Glenn, you leave in a week's time from the recording of this. By the time people get to see it, you'll be in South America. You'll be right in race mode. I just want to say thank you very much for talking to us. All the best of luck. And no, it's not luck. Go. No, go and may every member of the team, all 30, between 30 and 40 of you, give your absolute best, and let's see what happens.
Well, for sure, I can guarantee you that every member of the team will give his best. And as Nelson Mandela said to us in 2003, we expect you to do your best. And then he said, but I want you to do just a little bit more. And I thought that was quite profound. And we talk about this with the guys. We'll be doing our best.
Who's going to do the little bit more?
Yeah, who's going to do the bit more? I don't know. But you said luck. We don't want to depend on it, but in this race you need a little bit of it, and we've missed out a few times because perhaps we didn't have a bit of luck. Let's see if we've made enough this year and see where we end up.
Good luck, and thanks a lot for your time and for your honesty.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll see you in January, hopefully with a big one.
And hopefully we can get to the post-race, the post-mortem and the celebrations.
Well, yeah, that's a date. We'll do that.
Thanks a lot. Cheers, guys. Thanks. Gary. that was absolutely awesome. But while we were just coming in there, we've at the Muggen been in Broadacres again, and we've got to give them a big shout out and thank you to them. Welcome to the live audience, because we do have an audience today, and they're not just the chickens that are walking around here. That was a magnificent chat with Glenn, and even though it was only a week and a bit ago, I'd half
I didn't say a word.
I'd half not remembered some of the things that came in.
It was one
there.
of the Klux.
the Ku Klux Klan,
Yeah.
the Chicon. So some of the materials that he mentioned there, they've found a new way of making the lower control arms out of Domex. Domex is, go and look it up. It's very strong, but it can also take a lot of deformation before it actually breaks. So strength, it's a non-brittle material. Glass is very brittle. Not so brittle. Some of the other things that that he mentioned there was give the driver the tools for the job. Take away any anxiety that he's got, and allow the driver to push hard with confidence. And it's exactly the same, that objective.
Yeah.
Just reading Adrian Newey's book was exactly the same objective that giving a driver a car that is balanced and predictable, in which the driver feels confident so he can push. You know what it's like when you're walking the tightrope, Gary, and you're not feeling confident.
Just before the show.
You get a wobble. Did you say you wobble before every show?
Every time, bro. I get
I'm
the
only
wobbles like
learning
you
now.
can't believe.
You get grumpy as very. So, great show, and so tools for the job, materials, good driver, good car. Just some of the things I've got here. For those of you who listen to it, just work out the top speed, please. There's a great formula for top speed, because racing cars
Correct.
is about angles and dangles
Dangles.
and silicon
And
and
obtanium.
obtanium and
And
carbon
carbon
fiber.
fiber.
Why? Because the
You know what?
planet's like carbon fiber.
No. And we must add Kevlar.
It's
Yeah.
tougher than carbon fiber. So the parts that are going to wear on the sand are made out of Kevlar, because it's tough, like a Toyota.
Da.
We're doing kind. They don't pay us yet. Toyota.
It's just like a punt.
Well, we do such good work for them. And
Yes.
anyway, well, we're not going to
We're
go
not
there.
gonna go
Gary,
there.
focus.
Well, to the Toyota
just wanna
Gazoo
say-
Racing South Africa team, we wish you all the best, boys.
What have they been doing today? Yesterday, so today the race starts tomorrow. Yesterday I screwed up big time, because I'm out this show on the road, and I didn't quite do it justice. But in South America, they're in Lima at the moment. In South America, they've got to Sunday, a jawl day, and when the cars leave, the jawl is gone. So tonight they're having 10 o'clock our time, which is 3 o'clock. So around about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, they have the ceremonial podium. So the cars all leave, and everybody gets hammered, and they have a Musa party, and it's quite lekker. So tomorrow, it's 200 and... Gary, I need to talk to production, because
Did they not give you the
wardrobe
again?
came to the party. Check the matching shirts.
Yeah, I see that.
Catering half came to the party.
Yeah.
Well, the liquid samis are great, but the proper samis, they screwed up. But production, I can see 2/5 of 5/8 of not a lot.
You mentioned you
Yeah.
had a message for Terence Marsh. Has they gone out
I
the
was
mine?
saying, Terence, thanks for all the updates. It's absolutely magnificent. We really do appreciate it. My phone was buzzing all night while you were sending the updates. I think it's absolutely magic. But anyway, good luck, and have a fast
I have a
and
question for
furious
Terence.
race.
Terence, you posted a couple of videos, and you can send me a direct message. What I would like to know is, can I use them going forward into some of our shows, just to enlighten people that may not have seen your links and everything else like that? So give us a message that we can, and I'd love to use them. Thank you.
I say yes. Gary, it's always safer to ask to do it and then ask for forgiveness later than ask for permission and all the rest of it. So tomorrow is 7 o'clock their time, which is 14 o'clock. So add 7 hours onto what they're doing.
Yeah.
14 o'clock our time, 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
That's
they
right.
started 247 odd K liaison. and then an 84k racing stage. Now, the interesting thing with Glenn,
Yes.
when we were talking to him, is last year it was a very short first racing stage. So the strategy was you can't lose a lot of time by finishing not first. So what the Peugeots did
on stage one.
on the stage, yeah, because
Okay.
the starting time, the starting order for the next day is determined by the finishing order of this day. So if you, and the day 2, which is Tuesday's stage, is 300 and plenty kilos, and it's the first bang into the desert. And do you want to open it or don't you want to open it? 9 days of racing. So we've taken out the rest day, and there's tomorrow is 84k. So it's
Yeah.
not a lot of racing. The distance in days of racing, you can't really afford to lose time.
That's true.
84 kilometers or whatever it is, it's 84, 87, 80 something kilometers is enough for someone on it who comes out of the blocks and pins it from the beginning to actually get a meaningful gap. And like 2 minutes on day 1, tell you what. So what Glenn talks about, the strategy of you've got to go flat out at some time. I'm willing to bet NASA is flat out tomorrow. Pinned.
I think.
And one of the minis will be flat out.
Yeah, and I think Tim Brink is probably going to be the other flat-out guy. All right, Janelle will play the Janelle game, and he cautiously stay in the top 5.
Gary, I think
That's my
a
prediction.
year ago I would have agreed with you.
Yeah.
I don't agree with you now.
Okay, cool.
I haven't seen Janelle looking as lean and mean and hungry as he is.
Okay,
He's reunited with Dirk. I think they've buried the hatchet not in each other's backs. They had a bit of a fallout and what, but that's been resolved and they're China's again. So, and I think that they've rekindled that. There's a look in his eyes that I think is special. So I think that Burki is going to go like smoke.
just before we go anywhere else, and to everybody out there, guys, we have not forgotten about the bikers. We have something special for bikers. As we go through Dakar, there's 10 days of Dakar. And I had a conversation last night. We're going to have Ted Bobby on the show. We're going to have 1 or 2 others on the show. Joey Evans, this one is for you. If you can make it, I'll phone you.
We also
I need you on the show, brother. I need you to tell us about your parents. We have not forgotten about the bikes. Please believe me, we haven't. It's a case of how do we get everything across in the time frame we have. So, bikers, you are going to get so much biking information. It's mind-boggling.
But Gary,
So bear with us, boys. We have a program, and we'll get to everybody. We got 10 days to do it. Boom.
Gary, I've got to admit, when it comes to bikes, I know they've got 2 understanding of the bikes. I've seen what they now call the originals. I still want to call them Malimotos. They the Mad Oaks who
Yeah.
go and do it. They race this Dakar out of a trommel. We've got a South African doing that. I forget his name. I'm sorry.
There's 3 of them over there.
In a-
There's Gilbert, and Kenneth Gilbert. Guys, we got a comment section. You know, the comment section is there for a reason. So all you bikers out there, fill their names in. And like I said, we haven't forgot about the bikers. We have something for the bikers. It's going to happen. We've got 10 days of Dakar coming. Bear with us. And just one other thing. I just want to say a big thank you out to Andrew Horn. And if you go into the comment section, you guys, it sounds like we're blowing our trumpet, but it says to us, the job you guys doing creating awareness for local racing and local racing boys going overseas is amazing. Thank you again. Andrew, we try to do our best, brother. We try to get the right information, and we're not
Gee.
always correct, but we're close.
The dust has got in your eyes again, Gary. They're starting to water. Right. So that's about that for today. Let's
Yes.
just recap what's happening in Lima at the moment. They go scrutineering, final scrutineering,
Yeah.
and from scrutineering they go and line up in Park Firm. And then you come out of scrutineering and all the cars are lined up in a row in their number order, and then you've got to get out of there. So nobody's allowed to touch them. They fueled. They at least to get out of the ceremony. So tomorrow at 7 o'clock in the morning they'll be up on the ramp, and then they boogie. They do 250 odd kilometers, and then they go racing. The one thing we must remember, we remind you about all these things, is that servicing at Dakar is only available in the designated service areas, or where racing cars and the service vehicles coincides. The service vehicles, their routes are very, very, very controlled, Gary.
Yeah, they are.
And I think it must be done by a woman, because they've got to rule everything. And they will tell you that you have to go here to here to here to here. And there's something called Trippy, which is a little GPS computer that records everything and reports on you. That is brat that tells you if you're speeding and what. So you can't go off route.
Yeah.
And everything is recorded. It's like having expire on you, but it's reality. You live with that. So when the route coincides, you can stop and you'll just happen to see your car and you can service it. The other thing from a service point of view is the sea freight container finally arrived to, because I mean, talk about just in time
Yeah.
manufacturing and all that other crap, and part of it was the racking that goes inside the new trucks that Overdrive have got. So they packed all of that and did well and rock and roll. The other thing that they've got, just so that there's a ban on boozing, on drinking anything, on beer.
Where, in Aisha or in Dakar?
In the Gazoo racing team.
Oh, okay.
It's they take it very seriously, so there will be no drinking and working, and there will be you work on the car, you finish the car, and once the car's finished, then you eat, and then you can smoke. You don't work, and then go for a smoke break, and then come back and forget where you were. And this is particularly driven by NASA, and one of the reasons is to have the continuity where you start a job, and you finish the job, you sign off from the job.
Do whatever you need to do.
Your stuff. So the logistics about feeding yourself and before the cars come in is very good. Harry, your watch is clearly, it's working on the tap thing.
Yeah. I just want to tell everybody, at 5 to 9 South African time tonight, we will be posting a link so you can watch the whole show from Dakar, the start podium ceremony and all that sort of stuff. It will be on iLab, and I will share it to as many platforms as I can. So from 9:55 this evening, it'll be live. So thank you very much for watching. Awesome having you guys on board.
Gary, when are we back?
We're back tomorrow.
What time, Gary?
Can you and I can have a briefing afterwards so we can discuss that, or do you want to make a firm decision now?
I think we go with our decision of our normal time.
At 1800.
6 o'clock in the evening. And to the rest of the audience, guys, thanks a lot that you being so quiet and just like chilling out, and the support you give us. Having a live audience it's magnificent. So we will be at the Broad Acres Mug and Bean for those of you who want to come and join us tomorrow. There's some couple of famous people here. There's
me,
and there's like all the China's there. Yeah. Guys, thanks a lot. We'll see you tomorrow at 6 o'clock right here. Have a great one. Bye.
Cheers. Thank